Hey, what is up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am Ken with Mid-Level Media, and we are here to talk about planes, trains, and automobiles on 4K. Now, this is due out on November the 22nd, but I was lucky enough to get an early review copy in for this. So I watched it immediately and wanted to get my thoughts out to you guys here today in this review. And we're going to break down this entire release. You will know definitively when we are done here today whether or not this is going to be worth a pickup on November the 22nd. But before we get into it, guys, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do tons of content on this channel centered around the world of physical media, new 4K and Blu-ray reviews like this. I do unboxing videos, collection hauls, just tons of physical media content every single day, breaking news updates. So if you like that kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button. Also be sure to like this video and comment down below, guys. What do you think of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Is this one of your favorites comedies of all time, 80s comedies of all time? Let me know that in that comment section below. Let me know if you plan on picking this one up. I will be leaving a link for purchase down there if you do want to buy this. So I'm going to start this review by ripping the band-aid off. And don't worry, I have seen this movie before, but I just watched it for the first time last year. I actually watched it on Thanksgiving morning last year, 2021. So it was just one of those movies that I've got a lot of them that I had never seen, that I'd always been meaning to watch, and I never had. So I watched it last year on Thanksgiving. Absolutely love this movie. Just getting into the actual movie itself, I do like to talk about the films themselves before I talk about the 4K and the transfer and the audio and all that good stuff. But this is just, again, starring Steve Martin, John Candy, directed by John Hughes. I mean, legendary filmmaker, is just responsible for some of the greatest coming-of-age movies of all time. Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. How had I never... I've absolutely loved Steve Martin and John Candy like my entire life, and I just don't know why I never watched this movie. It's ridiculous. It's just a simple story of a man traveling home to Chicago from a New York work trip for Thanksgiving and the many obstacles he encounters along the way, including a man who promises to get him there in one piece and cannot quite deliver. So, of course, you got Steve Martin. He's the businessman trying to get home. You got John Candy. He's the guy trying to help him get home. They encounter so many obstacles. They're taking a plane at one point. They're taking a train at one point. And then they're taking some automobiles at one point. So that's the title of the movie right there. But this is just a classic comedy, classic 80s comedy. Everybody knows this movie. Everybody loves this movie. I know me personally, I just watched it for the first time last year, but I've been hearing about this movie what it feels like my entire life. Like everybody always talks about this movie. I feel like I've always heard people quote this movie, and I always felt like I was on the outside, you know, not really knowing what everybody was talking about. And you know, Martin and Candy are so underrated with their comedy. I feel like a lot of people love, you know, Steve Martin and John Candy, but these are two of the best comedic actors of all time. And when I say comedic actors, I don't just mean that they're funny on screen or whatever. They're just real outlandish and hilarious the entire time. They're actual comedic actors. There's a good deal of acting in this movie as well. Some really emotional moments and just heartbreaking moments when you get towards those final scenes. So it works because you have Steve Martin and John Candy, and they're so hilarious, they're so funny. That's just their natural state, their natural charisma. But then you get to some of those scenes at the end, and just their acting and just the way that they can carry that emotional weight really shines through and just really proves that these two gentlemen are more than just comedians. They are actors that can really carry some of that more dramatic weight in film. So it's also, you know, and they're just awesome in the movie. The movies, for the most part, is very lighthearted. It's very funny. It's very hilarious. But again, you do get some of those more emotional moments at the end. But it's a laugh a minute. You know, that sounds cliche. That sounds like something you put on the poster, but it really is. Like, I find myself cracking up numerous points throughout this movie. It is such a great movie. So many great moments in the movie that I wish that I had memories of growing up with, but I do not. I get to experience them now, but it's just so hilarious, both of them. It kind of reminds me a lot of Tommy Boy. Of course, you got John Candy playing as Chris Farley, and you got Steve Martin as David Spade. Just kind of that road trip type movie between the two guys that are kind of at odds with each other the whole time, just arguing and stuff. I think that Tommy Boy kind of took that template and ran with it, you know, from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Again, completely different plots, but very similar. And I think that's why I like this movie so much, because it reminds me of Tommy Boy, which is one of my all-time favorite comedies. There are few Thanksgiving movies out there, and this is one of them. And so this is definitely one that I encourage everybody that on Thanksgiving, definitely pop this one in, give it a watch. It's a great movie to watch with your family, to have fun with, to eat Thanksgiving dinner, to joke around with. But it also brings that heart in, like I said, and gives you those holiday family vibes and feels. Like the ending to this movie, it just hits you, and it comes out of nowhere because you're laughing the whole movie, and then you get to the end and it's like you start to feel a little tear, like some tears welling up in your eye holes, and then it gets super embarrassing, especially if you're watching it with somebody. But I couldn't help it. It's so sweet, it's so emotional, and I love the end of this movie. It's such a great payoff to this journey. So I do love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It is a great movie. Now let's get to the part that I know you guys are here for. We're going to talk about this 4K transfer from Paramount. I feel like we could talk all day on whether or not it's right or wrong for them to do a Steelbook and then a year later do the 4K. I've actually got a few videos, I feel like, on the channel discussing that kind of stuff. So this is a brand new 4K restoration of the film. It does have Dolby Vision and HDR10. And I thought, for the most part, now I have heard some rumblings of some people saying that this is garbage, that they've been hearing that it's garbage. It's not a good transfer. It's a serious disappointment. There are aspects of that, argument that I can definitely understand and see. But to me, this is a solid upgrade over the Blu-ray. It's not a massive improvement. It's not a great improvement over the Blu-ray, but it's a solid upgrade over the Blu-ray. Now, it is a clearer picture for sure. I did pop in the Blu-ray, did some side-by-side, a switch back and forth between the Blu-ray and the 4K just to make sure. So this is definitely a clearer picture. There's definitely a lot more clarity that you can notice on some of the up-close face shots. I'm thinking of the scene, the big like F-bomb scene where Steve Martin's letting the rental car woman have it over not picking him up. He's just dropping F-bombs left and right. You can see that close-up of Steve Martin's face. It zooms back to her, back and forth. There's tons of facial close-up scenes in this movie, but when I'm thinking of scenes like that, just close-up on Steve Martin's face, you can just see every single wrinkle and imperfection, and you cannot see stuff like that on the Blu-ray. It's really kind of like smoothed over, and you just can't see all of those details that you can in this 4K restoration with the HDR. So I do think that you do get quite a bit more clarity in this one than you do over that Blu-ray. So that is one significant improvement that I can point out. But I will say, considering that this did have HDR and it did have Dolby Vision, I was very disappointed in the overall richness of the colors, the vibrancy. They looked very similar to the Blu-ray. And again, I was switching back and forth between scenes. And again, you can see John Candy's jacket right there. It's this real like bright, colorful blue. And when I was switching back and forth between the two, yes, it's a little bit darker in tone on the 4K because of that HDR, but really the color is mostly the same. It still has the same level of vibrancy that the Blu-ray does. So the colors to me looked almost identical, like there was nothing different between the two. And you would think, with the high dynamic range, like that's what that's supposed to do. It's supposed to really enhance those colors, really flesh out those colors and make you see them like you've never seen them before. And that's not really the case here. So that is one area where this 4K definitely falters for me. And it is darker, and the black levels and the contrast are well balanced enough to give you that feeling of depth in the picture. But like I said, the colors, it's very disappointing because they're not as vibrant, they're not as rich, they don't stand out as much as they do in other 4K transfers. When I watch, and I hate to compare it to the other two recent, holiday titles that I reviewed, like A Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation, but when I watched those, I noticed a substantial difference in the colors between the 4K and the Blu-ray. The Blu-rays were very dull, and the 4Ks were very rich, just very vibrant, very in your face. They just stood out and just really popped. Nothing really pops in this movie. It's all pretty much the same as what we've had before with the Blu-ray. So overall, guys, when I'm thinking about this transfer, if you have the Blu-ray and you're satisfied with the Blu-ray, I really can't fault you at all for not wanting to upgrade to this 4K. Now, I do think it's an upgrade. I think there is a lot more clarity there. I think that this is the definitive way to watch this movie because it's not like it's a bad transfer. It's not like it's worse than the Blu-ray or anything. It's just not too much of an upgrade. And again, if you have the Blu-ray and you're happy with the Blu-ray, I'd say maybe stick with the Blu-ray. Again, that's up for you to decide. You just need to take what I say and kind of form your own thoughts on that. I'm not here to recommend this or not recommend this. I don't think it's a bad transfer at all. I just don't know if it's worth it to you to spend $21.99 on upgrading over your Blu-ray for just what I would say is just a little bit better quality as far as I'm concerned. But that's the transfer. Getting into the sound, this is a DTS 5.1 master audio. So no upgrade in sound here. That's the same sound that was present in the Blu-ray release previous. So everything sounded great to me. I'm listening to it on my sound bar. So gave it a good workout. There's a lot of planes, there's a lot of trains, and there's a lot of automobiles. So you hear a lot of like sounds and stuff going all around you with that. The planes you can kind of hear taking off. I could definitely hear all of that around me. So all that stuff sounded fantastic. And getting into the packaging, you have a nice slipcover by Paramount right here. I do really like this slipcover. One of the main reasons I like this slipcover is you don't have that generic general 4K banner at the top. This is kind of, integrated in with the actual artwork on the cover, which is pretty cool. Blu-ray has done that quite a bit, but I don't think, you don't usually see that a lot with the 4K. So I do think that's pretty cool that Paramount decided to do that on this. Now it does make it a little confusing when you're looking at it. You're like, is that a Blu-ray? Is that a 4K? But obviously it says 4K at the top, but I do like how they kind of put that in there instead of putting the big like 4K banner at the top. I think it's pretty cool. And you got the planes, trains, and automobiles on the side, Steve Martin, John Candy, and all that good stuff right there on the back. I'll kind of zoom in on the features and the specs and all that good stuff, and we'll take it out. I'll show you the case itself. You get the casting list on here, and then you do get a digital code in here. And you get when I first opened this up, I was like, wait a second, this isn't supposed to have a Blu-ray. It says 4K, it says digital code on the cover, and Paramount never gives you Blu-rays. But this Blu-ray is the extra luggage edition, bonus features, or extra luggage bonus features, I think is what they call it, or lost luggage is what they call it. So that's the lost luggage bonus features with all the deleted and extended scenes, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then you get that 4K disc right there. So just, the generic disc artwork. So yeah, getting into the special features itself. So there are, and again, this is where I have to praise Paramount because, Sony's doing it. Sony's doing a lot of good work with doing extra features on their new releases, but almost nobody else, including Paramount almost never does this, is adding new special features into their 4K releases. So when somebody does it, I have to call it out and I have to praise it. And Paramount added in an additional hour of special features, never before deleted and extended scenes that were recently discovered in the archives of writer, producer, and director John Hughes, and they were given to Paramount by the Hughes estate. So very cool that we got brand new special features here, and I did not watch all of them, but I put in the bonus disc, I watched about 5 of them, and the extended scenes are pretty rough to watch. Like there's been no work done on these scenes, so it's very raw footage of those scenes, but the ones that I watched were actually pretty damn hilarious. There's some like really drawn out extended scenes like in the airport lobby and on the plane itself between Steve Martin and John Candy just talking back and forth. They actually go into a pretty like long discussion, like in-depth conversation on Psycho and Alfred Hitchcock, and how the scene in Psycho affected the shower curtain industry, because John Candy's like selling shower curtains and stuff like that. He's like a salesman. So that was pretty humorous. But the 2 deleted scenes that are in there are like HD quality. They're just, regular deleted scenes, but all the extended scenes are very, in very rough shape. And again, understandably so. They never needed a reason to upgrade those because they never knew they existed until they brought them out for this release. So I would say maybe, the 4K isn't the greatest 4K restoration, is not the greatest upgrade, but maybe if you're a planes, trains, and automobiles fanatic, you have to get all of the planes, trains, and automobiles supplemental material that you can get. It might be worth it to you to spend the little extra money to upgrade this 4K just to get these deleted and extended scenes. Yeah, guys, that is my review of planes, trains, and automobiles. So take it for what you will, guys. This was not the most impressive 4K transfer. I have to be honest here. Everything else is great. Obviously, the movie is great. It's just kind of up to you whether or not it's worth it to upgrade this to 4K if you already own that Blu-ray. But again, like I said, you do get an hour worth of new special features. You also get a bunch of the, past special features as well. All the stuff that was present on the previous Blu-rays is in this edition as well. So appreciate you guys watching my review of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on 4K. I will be leaving a purchase link down below if you decide you want to get it. So please, guys, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button, turn on those bell notifications, comment down below your thoughts on this movie. Follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.